Hi, Dorothy Rowe here. Today we're talking about sacred gardens of the heart. If we picture the creation as one great, unbounded, infinite being of perception and experience that oversees every place in the entire universe, we can see that this great, huge, overarching intelligence, overarching and holding with love every part of the creation, the areas divide into smaller sections and smaller sections and smaller sections. And each area is overseen by an aspect of intelligence, by a form of consciousness, which is responsible for the administration of that area. And we can picture these areas becoming smaller and smaller until we get to areas that are kind of human size, like the size of our rooms and our houses and our spaces. And for each precious relationship that you have, there is a space. And it's not a space necessarily on the material level of creation. It's a space in the field of feeling, of the field of consciousness itself. I call these spaces sacred gardens of the heart. And if you take a moment and think about somebody that you love, and think about how unique that relationship is to you. And know that each person that you love, for each person, there is a relationship that's unique between you and that person. And that quality that's different from one beloved person to the next beloved person is the essential nature of the sacred garden for each of those relationships. So if you have a relationship that feels strained or uneasy, or you're having some challenges, maybe the person you love is far away from you, you can find them in that space. You can follow your own heart back into that space where your eternal soul and their eternal soul meet. And you can find them. And even if they're physically far away from you, it doesn't matter, because you can still find them. And when you do so, you'll notice that the relationship is every bit as much awake and alive now as it was when you were with them last. And if there are problems with relationships with other people, you can solve them by going into the garden through your own channel, through your own doorway into that space, and addressing the problem within the constraints of that garden, of that sacred garden. For example, if you find yourself a bit estranged from somebody that you love, you will probably notice that if you move into that garden space, I'm using the garden metaphorically, of course, but it suits pretty well, because gardeners tend to nourish their garden or nurture their gardens with their love as expressed through their actions. And it's the same with relationships. The more we nurture a relationship with our love, the stronger and more beautifully it grows. If you feel estranged to somebody, you may notice that there's an area in that garden where there's something like a wall. And of course, it wouldn't be a physical wall, but there can be an area where the flow of love, or the flow of consciousness, the flow of awareness is blocked. And so taking time to go into the sacred gardens of the heart and exploring the territory, exploring the landscape there, will reveal amazing things that will be useful to you in your ability to cultivate really happy, prosperous, wonderful relationships with other people. Often those walls, getting back to that relationship where there's a blockage there, often those walls are comprised of subtle structures such as discordant feelings, want, expectations, attachments. So going into that sacred garden and looking at where those areas are that the flow of consciousness isn't moving in an unrestricted manner, you can go in and see where that blockage is, And whatever the blockage is, simply by bringing your awareness to that spot, will naturally, spontaneously soften up whatever is there, if it's a discordant feeling or attachments or expectations or judgments or whatever. And as it softens, the wall comes down. And what you'll find is if you have a relationship with someone and it's not going well, that you can heal the relationship without having to go face to face to that person, but just going into that sacred garden space and nurturing the sacred garden and getting to know the landscape and using your attention to restructure that garden in a way that will promote maximum benefit for you and the other person. It's very useful, I found, to bring a silent center into those gardens. I've brought silent centers into all the gardens of all the people I know. And when there's a silent center, it's as if there's a home for the divine in every sacred garden. And it's very beautiful to have that feeling that the mother of all the universes is residing in the heart of every sweet, precious, sacred space that we share with other people. So I invite everyone to explore these areas. My experience is that they reside at the celestial level of the physiology. And may all your relationships be satisfying and fruitful and wonderful. May you have many, many good friends, and may everything in the field of the expression of your love and relationship with other people grow and expand. Thank you for joining me.